Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Your Relationship With podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Snow. I'm the founder and CEO of Powerful Women Rising. I run the Powerful Women Rising community, which is a group for female entrepreneurs that gives you everything that you need in order to grow your business or take it to the next level. We have masterminds, networking, co-working calls, copywriting calls. We have expert-led classes. We have a really engaged online community. It's so much fun, and it's way better than working on your business alone. So if you want more information on that, I'll put the link in the show notes. I also host a monthly virtual speed networking event, and I would love to see you at that. So I will put the link for that in the show notes as well. All right, today we are talking about LinkedIn. Yay! We're talking to Miranda VonFricken. She is a LinkedIn expert. I am not a LinkedIn expert. So this is why we bring people on the podcast, because I got a lot of areas of expertise. This is not one of them. Miranda is the CEO and lead trainer and strategist of LinkedIn Awesomeness. After leveraging the power of this platform for her personal brand and business, she started training teams and business owners on how to do the same thing. From training small teams and speaking at large conferences to creating content and strategy for entrepreneurs and brands, Miranda is known as the go-to for all things LinkedIn. That she is. Her clients learn to create a magnetic brand on their company page, as well as their personal profiles to attract future clients, new hires, referral partners, and career opportunities. When you and your team are ready to access the power of LinkedIn, she is who you call. This is an awesome interview for anyone who's already on LinkedIn or anyone who's not on LinkedIn and considering being on LinkedIn. We dig into who should and should not be using LinkedIn, the best tips for getting the most engagement and conversion on LinkedIn, and also why it's so important to make sure that you have the right thoughts, feelings, and energy behind what you're posting on LinkedIn in order to get the best return on your investment. So regardless of what your relationship with LinkedIn currently is, there are definitely some nuggets in this interview that are going to help you move forward regardless of what platform you are interacting on. So without further ado, here's my interview with Miranda VonFricken. Hello, Miranda. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. I'm so excited for our topic. We're talking about your relationship with LinkedIn. Such a good one. Some people are like, I love LinkedIn and I can't wait to hear this. Some people are like, I don't love LinkedIn and I can't wait to hear this. So we will visit all directions. So before we dive in, tell everybody a little bit about you and about your relationship with LinkedIn.
Of course. Thank you for asking. I love to brag about her. So LinkedIn and I go way back. I'm a reformed 9-to-5er. I was in human resources for about 15 years where I did recruiting, talent development, and training. And I used LinkedIn early on in my career to obviously help my company recruit awesome talent. So I used LinkedIn to do that, but I also started to brand the company as like the place to be by creating content and showcasing their awesomeness on the platform. From there, I ended up building my own brand, which was amazing. And people started writing on their cover letters, I only know about this opportunity because I saw Miranda on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing something here. Something's happening.
That's awesome.
So our relationship starts back in 2007. And so it's a committed relationship.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. So I'm a LinkedIn expert, trainer, speaker. My heart lives at LinkedIn, and pretty much it started a long time ago, but it didn't get serious. You know, we were casually dating probably in the beginning, and then it got serious around 2018. I had a personal tragedy in my life, and I disappeared from LinkedIn for a little bit. And people started to notice, and they would message me on LinkedIn and say, where'd you go? What's happening? You know, we miss your content, your inspiration and peppiness. And I explained what happened. I put a personal post out about losing my little brother and how I couldn't find it in me to create content at that moment. And it was then that I realized that LinkedIn was so much more than, visibility and business strategy. It was a community. And they cherished my input just as much as I now cherished theirs, not just for business, but personally. They were supporting me, and it was a beautiful thing. I hopped back on. I started doing LinkedIn local events. And so from that point forward in like 2018 is when I really went hard on LinkedIn for myself and my own business. It also got a little more aggressive after I got laid off 4 times in a row from my 9-to-5 life.
Oh my gosh.
So LinkedIn has been my friend, my boyfriend, my big sister, my business partner. Like, you name a relationship, I can compare my relationship in LinkedIn to that. I have a daughter and she's sassy. So I also think it's like a mother-daughter relationship because the algorithm's sassy sometimes and don't listen to what I tell it to do. So it is committed, it is joyful, and it is definitely a collaborative relationship. And I couldn't be happier than I am today with the results I get as a business owner. I've been in business full time for myself for about 5 years now, and I get all of my leads, if not from referrals, then from LinkedIn. So I'm a proud evangelist. I'll tell anybody my LinkedIn stories, and that they too should give LinkedIn a chance.
That's awesome. And I love what you said about this realization that it was more than just a visibility strategy, that it is a community, because I have so many conversations. My business is really focused on business relationships. And sometimes it's confusing what that actually means. And sometimes it seems like there's a separation between social media and business relationships. And like business relationships is about in-person and networking and sitting down face-to-face, knee-to-knee with people. But there is a way to build community and relationships and connections on social media, which is exactly what you're saying. Yeah,
absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. And not for nothing, we just don't have such time to do face-to-face all the time anymore. I started getting very strategic about my networking when COVID happened. Of course, we couldn't leave our homes, so everything had to go virtual. But I realized how much time I was saving driving to the local coffee house to have what should have been a 30-minute coffee chat, what turned into like an hour and a half, and there's dessert involved. And you're like, not only did I waste a lot of time, like just, shooting the breeze with a new friend, but I also ate a lot of calories. So,
and drove a lot of miles.
A lot of miles. So the virtual networking became very, very intriguing, of course. And of course, we were forced because of the pandemic, but it's just as effective. Like, I just met you. I can feel your energy. I can get something from this. And I'm sure you can feel mine too. Although in person's a little different. There's some hugging and high-fiving involved, but the LinkedIn, the social media, the virtual Zoom world is just as effective, if not more.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about LinkedIn specifically. Who should be on LinkedIn and who should not be on LinkedIn when it comes to female business owners? Because there's this idea in social media land that, part of it comes from my 16-year-old niece who's like, I'm not on Facebook. That's for old people. And I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you. So like Instagram is for young people, Facebook is for old people, and LinkedIn's for like really, really old people. Is that how it is? Or what's the deal?
Yeah, that's not the deal. She's wrong. She should be on LinkedIn. She should start networking now. Send her my number. So I would probably say my 11-year-old daughter doesn't need to be on LinkedIn, but my 19-year-old son better be on LinkedIn and using it, right, to network and to make connections for his goals professionally. So I like to talk about the unlikely on LinkedIn, because we all know 9-to-5ers should be there. Anyone looking for promotion, to be a thought leader, business owners, we should all be there networking, connecting, sharing our story to be able to magnetize our profile and draw in clients. But the unlikely, and these are my favorites, like plumbers, sex therapists, dancers, artists, musicians. Those are my favorite people to like have a debate with of why should I be. This is a gentleman who came to me. He sells lumber. He's like, listen, I hear about LinkedIn. Why? Like, I'm selling wood. And I'm like, there's a lot of funny hashtags we could talk about with your wood. And I just love it because they are unlikely and people are craving difference. They're craving something that doesn't look, feel, sound, read like them. And if there's just a bunch of HR people recruiting or 9-to-5ers on LinkedIn or entrepreneurs selling their widgets, it gets old. So we start scrolling. The unlikely stop the scroll. right? So I
Yeah.
think everybody should be on LinkedIn, even if you see your neighbor who's the exact same, as you on paper, just do it a little different. Bring your voice, your energy, your style to the platform, and you'll get people to stop scrolling and want to get to know you. So everybody should be on LinkedIn, from the age of like 18 and older.
Okay. Okay. So if old is over 18, then old people get on LinkedIn.
Yeah. It's funny. My daughter cringed when I got on TikTok. And I was like, come on. She's like, Mom, please don't start dancing on TikTok. I'm like, we do it different, right? Like adults don't need to point at things and dance on TikTok. We can educate, inspire, and inform and be very successful. It's the same on LinkedIn. Everybody has these preconceived notions of what LinkedIn is based on what it used to be, right? So it was a resume site. Now it's a resource and a social network. And if you're not on it, you're missing out.
Yeah. So let's talk about then, what should you be doing on LinkedIn?
All the things.
Right. I know that was a really big question.
How much time do we have, Melissa? First, we should get our profile up and running, right? Get it up, optimized, get it designed, looking beautiful. Make sure that your photo is presentable and people want to see more of the top part of our section, right? I call it, there's your top pop, right? So the banner, the headlines, the hashtags, get in creator mode. So first, really focus on your profile itself, because if you start engaging and drawing people to you and it looks crazy, they're not going to stay, right? So first, look fantastic, right? Fill out all the things, get someone to help you if you need it. There's probably tons of free, you can even Google how to do my LinkedIn profile. There's tons of people on Instagram on YouTube that do videos, right? I don't yet, but I'll just hop on a call with you if you have any questions. But there's so many people that right now, can really help you get your profile up and running. And then from that point forward, it really is based on your goals. And this is where the LinkedIn trainers of the world kind of separate themselves. We all have like a specialty when it comes to LinkedIn. My focus is, I can do all the things, of course, but my focus is really helping people to increase their voice and their visibility and magnetize their profile and what they do on the platform to bring people to them. So I used to have a sales job and we used to have to go out, right? And go out and get sales. And I loved that. But what I loved more was making myself and my team so irresistible that people come in. All right. So that's a big difference of my specialty. It's really the energy we bring to the platform. So once you're up and running, figure out what your goals are. What your goals are then from that point forward is really how you decide where you'll spend the most time, whether it's creating content, engaging in other people's content, which honestly is kind of like the secret sauce. Like the comment strategy is more important than the content strategy, especially if you're new and nervous, right? Because there's some newbies who will get on there and say, I don't even know where to start. My profile's done. It looks great, but what do I do now? And I'll say, join some conversations. Start with your homepage. The people that are already a part of your network, start nurturing that network. Scroll down, see what they're talking about. Check out some hashtags that really align with your values, see what they're talking about. So those are probably second and third level connections. So now you're joining, the homepage is your local community per se, think about it that way. And then the hashtags or the groups that you're joining and reading their content is more like going out and networking on a national, international level. So you're really starting to join those conversations and getting to know people. And that's what will increase your reach ultimately. But when they come to your profile, you want to make sure you've got some cool things to say too. So maybe create content once a week, twice a week. You don't have to be on it all day, every day, but definitely make sure that when they come back to you, they've got something to look at and you tell them what to do next.
Awesome. That is really great advice. I'm taking notes for my own self and my own LinkedIn. And I love what you said is we always need the reminder. There's a difference between consistency and constancy, right? We want to be posting consistently. That doesn't mean we need to be posting and engaging constantly. Can we still get good results without being on there constantly?
Absolutely. LinkedIn really likes the consistency factor, right? So they like that you're doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. It likes to see that you're on there once or twice a week, and they can almost depend on it. They can show up. The algorithm says oh, this is a consistent poster. This is somebody who gets consistent engagement, as opposed to the sporadic people who will go hard for 2 weeks straight and then they disappear, right? I see so many of these challenges. I tell people all the time, join the challenge to get in the habit of using LinkedIn, but don't like join the challenge and then drop off. So they'll go live or they'll post 365 days and then they'll disappear for the next 6 months because they're like, I'm good. But can you imagine if you did that with a marriage?
Right.
If you went hard in your marriage for a year and then disappeared for 6 months, you probably wouldn't be married anymore. So think about the consistency of, the couple days a week, right? Going 10 minutes or 3 days a week, engaging and then posting your own stuff, but being there to respond to those who engage with you. So I always tell people, turn your notifications on because you want to make sure that if someone comments on your posts, that you get to it in a timely fashion, but it's not a huge deal. That really does depend on your goals when you can determine how often to be on the platform.
Okay. Awesome. That's good. Good information. So that is really about the strategy of LinkedIn. I mean, a very 360 far away view of the strategy. We can't give you all the secrets in 20 minutes.
But pay me money for that.
Exactly. I'll tell you how you can pay Miranda money at the end of this podcast. But there's more than just taking action, right? This is very similar to in-person networking, which I do a lot of and I teach a lot of. You can show up to the event, but that's only the first part of it. If you show up to the event with this thought and feeling and energy of like, I don't belong here. Why am I here? Nobody wants to talk to me. I'm not even a legitimate business owner. And all these people are so far ahead of me. Like that's going to get you very different results than if you show up with the energy of, oh, I'm so excited to meet people. I'm curious what these people do, right? There's a big difference. So it's similar when you're engaging and when you're posting on LinkedIn. You want to be in that space of good energy, good thoughts, good feelings. But I think what gets in a lot of people's way, especially LinkedIn, because we have this idea of it being a more professional, intellectual, like high level situation. And I think that prevents a lot of people from posting because we think like, who am I to have a comment on this post? Or like, who am I to be posting something about the I don't know, United Nations or like whatever the thing is, right? So can you talk a little bit about that and how that confidence or lack of confidence impacts people on LinkedIn?
Of course. I mean, it's everything. It's definitely a make or break situation. If you went into that networking event and just stood by the coffee pot, drinking coffee and observing people, what are the odds of you getting business from that? You're probably going to find people who you could hire because you'll be hearing what they're saying. So when we call them like lurky-loos, like on LinkedIn, you're just scrolling and not being active. I get clients like that all the time. They'll say, oh my gosh, I've been following you for years and I'm ready to hire you. And I'm like, who are you? Like, where did you come from? You've never commented or liked or DM'd or anything. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of nervous about it, but now I'm ready to kind of jump in. But think about like the length of time that they were lurking, that they could have probably had some engagement themselves. So I often tell them to treat it like a networking event because they're professional, right? Like you said, like we jokingly say that Instagram is like a fashion show. Facebook is like a backyard barbecue with your family. And so you can be a little crazier on Facebook. and LinkedIn is like a networking event. So joining the conversations, you go to a table, right? Think about like a networking event where you go to the table and you pass your cards around. That's just like, well, part of the equation. The next part of the equation is really having a conversation with that person. And they're all strangers. So think about when you comment on somebody else's post, they're a stranger to you, and you're a stranger to them, but they are looking for that engagement. They're putting themselves out there to get a response. So it's almost like saying you don't deserve a response to me. I kind of like tell my clients it's almost selfish not to engage in the content that you enjoy because you're not giving that person an opportunity to boost their algorithm, right? For LinkedIn's algorithm to say, oh, this content is enjoyable. You like it. And if you want to see more of it, you have to engage in it. LinkedIn won't show me your stuff if I don't engage in your stuff. It'll just scroll on by. I've got like 20,000 followers. 20,000 people don't engage in my stuff, which means they're not seeing it. So what's actually happening is I've got a good set of like 100 people that are pretty consistent throughout the week that will engage with me, give or take some other randoms that find me. But those people will see me on their homepage all the time. I get messages that say, first thing I wake up to is my alarm clock. And then I go on LinkedIn and there's your face. And I'm like, you're welcome. but they're engaging in my stuff. So they're seeing it more often. It's training the algorithm to say, I like this type of content. But if they don't engage and they're just scrolling, they're not going to see more of it. I literally have clients that pay me thousands of dollars say, I don't even see your stuff. And I'm like, it's because you're not engaging in it. So definitely train the algorithm to let it know what you like. So you have to kind of engage. And when we think of it as like a networking event, handing your card to someone, which is pretty much essentially just doing your profile, right? Like just having a card doesn't mean you're going to get business. Handing it to them and having a conversation, which is commenting on their content, it doesn't mean you're showing off like, oh, look how smart I am, or I can say that too. Like it just, I mean, of course, don't say that, right? If you have something to say that's meaningful and adds value to the conversation, you're going to not only make a new connection with the original poster, but all the people in the thread that also comment. You don't have to be like mind-blowing comment creator. You can just say like, this is really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's pretty basic, right? You can start, I jokingly say, start with the happy birthdays and great posts. I loved it. Like all the really like low to entry barriers, you know, with what to say to these people. And then once you get more into their content, then you can really engage in the conversation.
Yeah, that's really good advice. What about with our own posts? Like, what about that feeling of I'm not enough of an expert to be able to talk about this? Or like, who actually wants to hear what I have to say about this? How do we get over that?
Yeah. So don't look at it as I need to be an expert. Think of it as I have experience. So that's the difference. It's not about your expertise. It's about, well, it's not about your being an expert. It's about your expertise and experience. So I wouldn't say anybody's an expert, let's be honest, unless they've got 10,000 plus hours and they've been doing it for 1,000,000 years. You're probably not an expert because we should always be learning. So even those who say are experts, like I consider myself pretty good at LinkedIn, but I'm taking a 4-hour course tomorrow by somebody else because I'm always trying to perfect my craft, right? And so if they know something, let's find out if I can know it too, you know, so it's always about learning. So even if you do something where you have an experience or a feeling, or, you know, there was something like you elevated your career or you had a thought, you're able to put that thought out there. There's no LinkedIn police that say, oh, that wasn't in the level of expertise. You really got to like, it's no, thank you. And if anything, it's better when we dumb down our expertise because the people reading it are definitely not experts in what we're talking about. We are. Like today I posted about baptizing my daughter yesterday. That's not something about expertise. That's an experience I had that I want to share with the world. That's, you know, something I want to put out there, you know? And so for me, it wasn't about, you know, let me train you on something, because LinkedIn isn't just about educating or intense thought leadership. It's about inspiring too. Like I get a lot of like these warm and fuzzy posts that come across my feed and I'm like, yep, I want more of that in my life. So I'm going to engage in that, you know? So people put pictures of their dogs. Like it's not what it used to be. It's definitely more fun, more engaging. And I would try to release the pressure of I'm not an expert. Like just write down like 5 things you're either really good at, have experience with, or want to draw people in to talk about. Especially if you're a business owner, you have to have some expertise because people are paying you money for something. What are they paying you money for? What are they asking questions? Like, what are the questions they ask you? Those are the questions you could be answering in a post on social media.
Yeah. That's really good. And the other thing too, I had a coach tell me one time, you don't have to know everything. Like you don't have to be the expert of all of the things. You just have to know a little bit more than the people who are behind you. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're not coaching the 8-figure business owner, you don't need to know more than the 8-figure business owner. Maybe you just know more than the lady who made $5 last year, you know?
I mean, it's funny when people talk about, you know, I'm a 6-figure coach or I'm, you know, a millionaire. I just posted the other day about being a thousandaire and it was hilarious.
Oh my God, I love it.
And my card not getting declined, you know, like it's hilarious. I mean, I did that all the way up to like hitting 6 figures in my business. I remember thinking like, how can I even talk about anything? I'm not even at 6 figures yet, but don't call yourself a 6-figure coach then, or don't even call them. Who cares what figures you have? You know what I mean? Like for me, it's about what can you offer? What's the value you offer to the people on the other side of that LinkedIn page? They connected with you for a reason. So remember that, right? Like you have experiences, you have some sort of expertise. They connected with you already for a reason. They said yes to you before. What makes you think they're going to say no to you now? They've already said yes. So remind yourself of that. And then more people will come in because they want to. Nope, I don't follow people when I don't like their stuff.
Right.
So, yeah. And I often get unfollowers, which cracks me up. And I'm like, oh, you liked me yesterday, but now you don't. But those aren't my people, right? Those
Exactly.
people. So think about that. Like you are calling in, you want to call in the right people, which means you're not faking content. I often see people trying to like fake their expertise or show like how amazing they are, but it's really just falsifying what you're doing. It's bad energy. Don't put it out there. Talk about the truth in your moments, the experiences, the lessons you've learned. You've already been through a lot of stuff. Talk about that. And then you'll bring people in at more like an honest way. And I think that will reflect your growth. It'll grow faster, because then what happens is, if, one day you say something and the next day you say something else that contradicts it, they're gonna realize it, right? So if you're always being truthful and just sharing your personal experience, no one can either take that away from you, no one can deny it, and they can't get caught. You can't get caught lying.
Yeah. Authenticity is huge for sure.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting, these interviews that I've done already for the podcast, how authenticity manages to weave itself into like almost every single interview. I did one about relationship intelligence. We talked about authenticity. I did one about email marketing. We talked about authenticity. Like it's everywhere. So obviously we're onto something.
Yeah. They're sick of the fakeness, I think. I think it's more accepting to be who you are now than ever, even on LinkedIn. I mean, I've got friends that post about their tattoos, friends that talk about, any mental health issues that they have. And it's before they may not have. But I think people are craving this stuff. They're craving honesty, authenticity, and they want to find their people. Right. So I talk about Jesus on LinkedIn all the time. Do you think that is a place 10 years ago we'd be able to talk about Jesus and faith on like a resume platform? Like absolutely not. And that's probably like some of my best engaged type content, because I have a lot of people who follow me and are faith-based as well. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. But then the next day I'll talk LinkedIn and they'll be like, cool, we could do that too. So I just think being exactly who you are draws in the right people and saves a lot of heartache in the end.
Yeah. And I never have drama about unfollows or unsubscribes on my email list, because I used to. And then I thought, why are you sad about somebody who doesn't want to hear what you have to say leaving? Yeah. Like if you were at a party and there was one person that was like, no, I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to hear what she has to say. I'm not interested. Would you be like, no, please come back and talk to me? Like, no, you just go talk to someone else.
I would thank her for not wasting my time.
Right.
Thank you for not thinking that, making me feel like I have to impress you when I don't even have to bother. Like, thanks so much. Let's celebrate our unfollows.
Yeah, exactly. Bye-bye. Okay. I feel like we could keep going. That LinkedIn is such a big topic and you're obviously so knowledgeable and so fun to talk to, but I'm going to wrap it up for now. Okay. If anybody wants to know more about you, wants to dig in more on what you do, what's the best way for them to connect with you? Probably LinkedIn.
I was just going to say, if they don't think LinkedIn, then I haven't done my job yet. Yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, of course. Connect with me. Shoot me a DM. Say hello. Say you've heard me on this podcast. And I'll know exactly the conversation you heard. I'm also on Instagram, of course, Miranda.VonFricken. But honestly, I have a website, MirandaVonFricken.com. But literally, LinkedIn is the place to go.
Awesome. I will put all of those links in the show notes. Since you're not, apparently, I was going to ask you in the beginning if it was a monogamous relationship that you had with LinkedIn. Clearly it's not. Well, clearly you have a little side chick named Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram gives me a little something different than Facebook or LinkedIn, so LinkedIn has been, honestly, LinkedIn is all about growth for me. And Instagram is, I feel like, two different clients, right? And for me, it's definitely two different services I offer. I still talk about LinkedIn on Instagram, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I will put all your links in the show notes. Reach out to Miranda, connect with her. And Miranda, thank you so much. This has been super fun.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much for listening to the Your Relationship With podcast. If you liked what you heard, we would love for you to subscribe and leave us a review. If you want more information about the Powerful Women Rising community or about our monthly virtual speed networking event, check out the link in the comments. We'll see you next time.